Are you ready to rest? Not just your body, but your mind. Let the timeless wisdom of the Buddha guide your heart home. Tonight, as you lie beneath the quiet breath of the universe, let go of every question that keeps turning in circles. There is nothing you must prove, nothing to believe, nothing to achieve. The peace you are seeking has never been lost. It is simply waiting for you to stop searching. Zen masters call this the peace beyond belief, a serenity that doesn't depend on doctrines, dogmas, or divine promises. It's not a reward for the faithful or a secret known only to monks in mountain temples. It's the stillness that arises when the waves of thought rest for just a moment, and you glimpse the ocean beneath. Close your eyes and breathe softly. Feel how each breath moves in and out without your command. Even now, the body knows how to live, how to heal, how to rest. This is nature's wisdom, effortless, wordless, complete. The Buddha once said, "Ehipasiko," which means, come and see for yourself. He invited people not to believe him, but to experience truth directly, to test every word through their own life. Imagine standing by a calm lake at dawn. The surface mirrors the sky perfectly, until a single stone breaks the reflection into ripples. Our minds are like that lake. Every belief we cling to, about who we are, what we must become, what others think, is a stone dropped into still water. The more stones we throw, the more distorted the reflection becomes. But when we stop throwing, the lake doesn't need to do anything to become clear again. Clarity is its natural state. For centuries, human beings have sought peace through belief, believing in gods, in systems, in ideologies, in the next success that might finally make them feel whole. Yet belief is often a double-edged sword. It can give comfort, but it can also create division. When we insist that our way is the only way, peace slips away like mist under sunlight. The Buddha understood this long before our modern world existed. He knew that peace could never be owned, only realized. Think of the heart as a garden. Belief can plant seeds, but experience waters them. If you only hold beliefs without living them, the soil dries up. But when you touch truth directly, through awareness, through compassion, through silence, the garden blossoms naturally. There is a story told in the old scriptures. A man came to the Buddha and said, "I do not believe in anything. Tell me what I should believe." The Buddha replied gently, "Do not believe, see." The man was confused. "How can I see without believing?" The Buddha pointed to a nearby tree and asked, "Do you believe in that tree, or do you simply see it?" The man looked and smiled. In that instant, belief disappeared and seeing began. So tonight, let seeing begin within you. Feel your breath without believing in it. Feel your heart beating without naming it good or bad. Let go of all effort to find peace. And you will notice that peace has already been here, quietly breathing with you. This is the first lesson of Zen. The truth is never elsewhere. You don't need to travel to distant temples or chant in forgotten languages. The temple is your body, the mantra is your breath, and the sacred text is the rhythm of life unfolding in this very moment. As you rest now, notice how the body relaxes when it is trusted, not controlled. The peace beyond belief is not about turning away from the world. It's about returning home to what you already are. Awareness itself, boundless and calm. In the silence that follows, allow this realization to settle like soft rain over the landscape of your mind. You have entered the doorway of peace, not by faith, but by simple seeing. And as you linger in this stillness, another truth begins to emerge, that the mind's restlessness is not your enemy, but your teacher. It shows you how peace is born when movement and stillness learn to dance together. As this calm unfolds, you may begin to notice subtle ripples returning. Thoughts, memories, unfinished plans drifting through your awareness. Don't resist them. They are not mistakes in the silence, but messages from the restless mind itself. To understand peace, we must also understand that restlessness. So now, gently, let us turn toward that movement within and see what it's trying to teach us. the restless mind of the modern world. The piece you just touched is gentle, almost fragile, but the moment stillness appears, something else begins to stir. Thoughts arrive like birds startled from the trees. What time is it? Did I forget something? Why am I thinking again when I just wanted to rest? This is the restless mind, an ancient companion living inside every human being. It has built cities, invented languages, sent rockets into the sky, and yet it cannot stop talking to itself. In every age, people have mistaken thinking for living. We believe that if we analyze enough, plan enough, or worry enough, we can secure happiness. But like chasing our own shadow, the harder we try, the farther peace runs away. Zen calls this monkey mind, jumping from branch to branch, grabbing one thought, then another. You don't need to fight this monkey. Just watch how it moves. Notice how a thought about tomorrow becomes an entire conversation in your head. How one small memory opens 100 doors. This is not a flaw. It's simply what the mind does when it forgets to rest. Modern life has given the monkey a jungle of endless branches, glowing screens, breaking news, endless comparisons. But the mind of ancient times was restless too. Even in the Buddha's day, people carried the same burden of what if and if only. One disciple once told the Buddha, "Master, my thoughts run like wild horses. I try to meditate, but they pull me away." The Buddha smiled and said, "Let the horses run. You need not chase them. Simply see where they come from, and they will tire on their own." This is the secret that has outlived centuries. Peace doesn't come by controlling the mind. It comes by seeing it clearly. When you observe your thoughts without judgment, you step out of their current. You're no longer the water, you become the riverbank. Steady, spacious, patient. Try it now. Take a breath, long and soft. See if you can watch one thought rise and fall. Maybe it's about your day, your future, your worry. Don't follow it, don't push it away. Just let it drift like a cloud across the open sky. Notice how it appears, lingers for a moment, and dissolves, all by itself. This is what the Buddha meant when he spoke of impermanence, the law of gentle change. Everything that arises also passes. Even the busiest mind cannot escape this truth. There's an old Zen parable about a man who wanted to calm the ocean. He ran along the shore waving his arms, shouting at the waves to stop. Of course, they didn't. Exhausted, he finally sat down, his reflection trembling on the water. Only then did he see. It was not the ocean that needed to be calm, but his own heart. In the same way, you cannot silence the world, but you can stop shouting inside yourself. You can let things be as they are, without trying to fix every ripple. That quiet acceptance is the beginning of wisdom. The restless mind isn't evil, it's simply untrained. Like a young puppy, it keeps running toward every sound it hears. You don't punish the puppy. You call it back gently again and again until it learns to stay. Each time you notice your thoughts and return to the breath, you're teaching the mind to rest in awareness. This is mindfulness, not a technique, but a tender act of remembering. And when remembering deepens, the mind begins to understand itself. It sees that all restlessness arises from one subtle desire, the desire to know, to be certain, to feel safe. But real safety doesn't come from answers. It comes from being at ease even when answers never arrive. The Buddha once showed this through silence. When asked about the origin of the universe, he simply smiled and said nothing. Not because he didn't know, but because the question was born from restlessness, not wisdom. That silence, more powerful than 1,000 words, is where we'll travel next. So take one more breath. Let the monkey settle, let the waves smooth out, and step softly with me into the stillness of a teacher who spoke without speaking. The Buddha who taught by silence. There's a story told in the early days of the Buddha's life as a teacher. One evening, after a long walk through the dusty roads of India, a wandering ascetic came to him with burning questions. "Gautama," he said, "you speak of awakening, of freedom from suffering, but tell me this, Does the world have a beginning or not? Is the soul eternal, or does it vanish at death? Is there a creator behind all this? The Buddha looked at him, calm as a mountain at dawn. And then, he said nothing. The man grew impatient. Why will you not answer me? Still, the Buddha remained silent. Finally, when the man left in frustration, one of the disciples asked, Master, why did you not speak? Don't you know the answers? The Buddha smiled gently. He picked up a fallen leaf and held it out to the disciple. What is heavier, he asked, this leaf in my hand or all the leaves in the forest? The forest, of course, the disciple replied. So it is with questions, said the Buddha. What I teach is only a handful of leaves, enough to end suffering. The rest are of no use on the path to peace. That was his silence, not ignorance, but compassion. He knew that the human mind loves to chase after mysteries it cannot solve, just to avoid facing the mystery it already is. The silence of the Buddha is not empty. It is full of knowing. It is the silence that listens instead of answering, that observes instead of reacting. Think about how rare that kind of silence is today. We live in a time where everyone has an opinion, a definition, a debate. Noise has become a currency, and silence a forgotten art. But wisdom grows only in quiet soil. Just as a seed must rest in darkness before it sprouts, understanding deepens only when words stop fighting for space. The Buddha's silence invites us to pause, to look not at the question, but at the one who is asking. Where does the question arise? What is it that wants to know? And if you look closely, you'll see every question is born from the same restless root, the wish to feel safe through certainty. But life, like the sky, has no edges. It cannot be measured or controlled by belief. When the Buddha refused to answer, he was showing us how to live with mystery, how to trust not knowing. His silence says, you don't need to grasp the truth. You only need to stop grasping. There's another old Zen story. A monk once asked Master Bokuju, why did the Buddha not speak when asked about ultimate reality? Bokuju replied, because he was too compassionate to disturb the silence with words. The monk frowned. Then what should I do? Bokuju simply said, listen to the silence until it begins to speak. Silence speaks, but not in language. It speaks through the warmth of sunlight on your skin, through the rhythm of your breath, through the soft awareness that everything is already complete. When you rest in that silence, you begin to understand without thought. You see that truth is not an object to possess. It is the stillness that sees. Close your eyes for a moment now. Feel the quiet between each breath. Notice that even within the soft sound of your inhale, there is a deeper silence holding it. That is where the Buddha's teaching lies. Not in scriptures or symbols, but in this living presence. When you can listen to silence without fear, it becomes your greatest teacher. Because silence never lies. It never argues. It simply reveals what words can only circle around. And in our modern world, we often look to science for every answer, for proof, for reason, for measurable truth. But what if silence and science are not enemies? What if they are two doors opening to the same vast room? Let's take a quiet step toward that thought. Between science and silence, science looks outward. It measures the world, names its parts, and reveals astonishing patterns hidden in the fabric of reality. Silence looks inward. It observes the mind that measures and asks, who is it that sees? For centuries, humanity has trusted science to explain the stars, the cells, and the beating of the heart. But science cannot explain why a single act of kindness can make the same heart feel weightless. It can describe how neurons fire when you fall in love, but it cannot measure love itself. It can track the movement of breath, yet it cannot define the moment when a breath becomes peace. Zen does not reject science, it completes it. The Buddha never denied the outer world. He simply reminded us not to forget the inner one. He said, Just as the ocean has only one taste, the taste of salt, so does my teaching have one taste, the taste of freedom. Freedom, not from the world but within it. Imagine a scientist peering through a telescope, searching for distant galaxies. Now imagine a monk sitting beneath the same night sky, eyes closed, breathing slowly. Both are exploring infinity, one through observation, the other through realization. The universe they touch is the same, only the direction of their gaze is different. Science is the art of knowing the external. Silence is the art of knowing the knower. When these two meet, a deeper understanding blooms, a balance of clarity and humility, because even the greatest discoveries remind us how small we are and how miraculous it is simply to exist. There's a story told of a philosopher who approached the Buddha. "I have studied the stars," he said proudly. "I have mapped the heavens, but I cannot map the mind." "What is the mind?" The Buddha pointed to the moon rising over the river. "Do you see the reflection of the moon in the water?" "Yes." "Then," said the Buddha, "you have seen the mind. The reflection is not the moon, yet without it, the moon could not be known. When the water is still, the reflection is clear. When disturbed, the image breaks. Study the stillness, not the sky." The philosopher bowed deeply. He realized that knowledge without silence is like light without shadow, bright but blinding. Modern science now echoes what the Buddha taught 2,500 years ago. Neuroscientists have found that meditation changes the structure of the brain, softening regions that trigger anxiety and strengthening those that cultivate compassion. Biologists have discovered that even cells communicate in patterns of harmony, as if life itself were meditating at the smallest scale. Yet Zen reminds us, knowing this is not enough. Understanding is the seed. Experience is the bloom. You can read every study on mindfulness, but until you sit quietly and watch one breath from beginning to end, the words remain ink on paper. When you breathe consciously, the experiment becomes personal. You become both the scientist and the mystery being studied. Take a breath now. Inhale slowly through the nose. Feel the cool air entering the body, touching every corner of your awareness. Exhale gently through the mouth. Notice how for just a moment there is silence before the next inhale. A space so small, it often goes unnoticed. That space is where science ends and silence begins. In that pause, no instruments can measure what you feel. No equation can express the quiet joy that arises. It is the direct encounter with truth, not the truth described in books, but the one experienced in your own living breath. Science explains the heartbeat. Silence lets you hear it. Science observes the brainwaves. Silence allows you to rest between them. Science points to the outer cosmos. Silence reveals the inner one, and together they whisper the same secret, that the universe is not something you stand apart from. You are the universe, noticing itself. So tonight, as you rest between science and silence, let them meet within you, the clarity of knowledge and the calm of wisdom. Because when mind and heart bow to each other, you no longer have to choose between knowing and being. You simply awaken softly into both. And in that awakening, another truth begins to shimmer, the law of change, the quiet dance of impermanence that moves through every heartbeat and every star. As you breathe in this quiet wonder, feel how everything, even peace itself, keeps moving, changing, flowing. Let us rest for a while in that gentle truth, the beauty of impermanence. Impermanence, the law of gentle change. The night itself is changing as you listen. Shadows shifting, breath returning, time flowing through you. Nothing stays, yet nothing is truly lost. Come, let us sit beside this river of change and watch how it carries peace along. The Buddha once sat by a river and asked his disciples, "Can you step into the same water twice?" They looked at him puzzled. "Of course not, Master. The water keeps moving." The Buddha smiled. So it is with life, flowing, passing, renewing with every moment. Impermanence, anicca, is not a curse, but a blessing misunderstood. It is the reason flowers bloom, why dawn replaces the night, why pain eventually softens, and joy too must yield to rest. Without change, there would be no music, only one eternal note. Without death, there would be no birth. Everything lives because everything moves. Think of a single breath. You inhale, and in that inhale is life entering. You exhale, and in that release, space for new life appears. Every breath is a small rehearsal for letting go. This is how the body teaches us the law of the universe. You can't hold the breath or it will suffocate you. You can't hold love or it will freeze. You can only experience it as it flows through you. Many people fear impermanence because they believe change means loss. But the Buddha taught that impermanence is the ground of peace. He once said, "All conditioned things are like dreams, bubbles or shadows. They vanish, but in vanishing, they reveal the truth. The truth that everything borrowed is also sacred, that every meeting is precious precisely because it will end." In a small monastery long ago, a novice monk cried when his clay cup broke. His teacher looked at him kindly and said, "The moment you picked up that cup, it was already broken." Knowing that, how could you not love it even more? From that day, the young monk began to see impermanence not as tragedy, but as tenderness. He drank tea with both hands, smiling at the cup as though thanking it for still being whole. This is how understanding change transforms sorrow into gratitude. When you see the cracks of life not as flaws but as openings for light, impermanence becomes your friend. Look around you. The trees outside shed their leaves not in despair, but in quiet trust that spring will return. Clouds dissolve into rain, and the rain gives life back to the soil that will feed the next flower. The same rhythm moves through you. Old emotions fading, new ones forming, cells dying, cells awakening, memories passing like seasons through the mind. And yet, something watches all of this. Call it awareness, call it the witness, call it the still point. It does not come or go. It only notices the coming and going. When you rest in that awareness, you realize that impermanence doesn't destroy peace. It reveals it. Because peace is not in the things that change, but in the heart that watches them change with compassion. Take a moment to remember someone you once loved, a friend, a parent, perhaps a version of yourself. Notice how that memory has softened over time, how grief that once burned like fire now feels like gentle warmth. That is impermanence at work, not stealing love, but refining it. So when the world shifts around you, when people leave, when seasons turn, remember the river and the cup, the cloud and the breath. Everything flows, and in that flow, nothing truly dies. You too are part of that sacred movement, the heartbeat of change itself. Rest here for a while, and let each breath remind you, every ending is already a beginning, wearing a different face. And as we sit beside this river of impermanence, you may begin to notice something deeper still, the quiet urge to control the current, to steer what cannot be steered. Even as everything flows, a part of us longs to dam the river, to make life stay just as it is. But peace is not found in holding stillness. It blooms in letting it move. Let us drift closer to that truth. The illusion of control. Yet within this river of change, the mind still reaches for the banks, trying to hold, to shape, to control what was never meant to be grasped. Let us look softly at that reaching and see where true freedom begins. We are born into movement, From the first breath to the last, life unfolds as a rhythm of flow and release. Yet somewhere along the way, we begin to believe that if we could just manage everything, our time, our work, our emotions, our future, we could make the river obey us. We call this control. But control, in truth, is only a dream of the frightened mind. The Buddha once compared life to a man riding a horse that is galloping fast. Someone asks him, "Where are you going?" And the man replies, "I don't know. Ask the horse." That horse is our habits, our conditioning, our endless need to control what cannot be controlled. We don't guide the horse guides us. Look closely and you'll see. Control is never about mastery. It is about fear. The fear of uncertainty, of loss, of being vulnerable in a world that moves without asking our permission. We plan to protect ourselves from chaos, but often it is the planning itself that creates the chaos. There's a story told of a monk who tried to meditate by the river. Every day, a leaf would fall onto the surface of the water, and each time it did, the monk grew frustrated. The ripples ruined the perfect reflection he wanted to see. One evening, his teacher passed by and asked, "Why do you look so troubled?" The monk said, "Master, I'm trying to still the water, but the leaves keep falling." The teacher smiled. "Perhaps," he said, "it's not the water that needs to be still, but your wish for it to stay that way." We spend our lives chasing the stillness of water while stirring it with our own hands. We want the weather to agree with our plans, the people we love to behave as we wish, and our own hearts to stay calm on command. But nothing obeys the command of wanting. The wind will blow, the rain will come, and emotions will rise and fall like waves upon the tide. When we try to grip life too tightly, it slips away faster, like sand escaping through closed fists. But when we open the hand, the sand can rest there gently. Control hardens, awareness softens. The first exhausts you, the second frees you. The Buddha once said, "To see things as they truly are, that is freedom." When you see that everything arises from countless conditions, the weather, the soil, the choices of others, the unseen patterns of time, you realize you never were in control. You were simply participating in the great dance of causes and conditions, what Buddhism calls dependent origination, or duyen koi. It means nothing exists alone, not even your plans. Every moment is co-created by the universe itself. So instead of trying to steer the river, raise your sail and let the wind guide you. This is not giving up. It is giving in to wisdom. The sailor still moves forward, but not through struggle. He reads the wind, trusts the current, and adjusts the sail when the sky changes. That is the balance of effort and surrender, the art of living in harmony with what is. Try this now. Take a slow breath and imagine your life as that sailboat. The mind is the hand on the rope, the heart is the sail, and awareness is the open sea. Can you feel the wind moving through you? You don't have to control it. Only feel its direction and respond with gentleness. When you live this way, peace stops being something to chase. It becomes the natural rhythm of movement and pause, of knowing when to act and when to allow. Control is noise. Awareness is listening. And when listening deepens, you begin to hear something softer beneath the surface. The quiet pulse of compassion, the heart learning to see beyond itself. Let us rest there next, in the gentle light of understanding that rises when the self begins to dissolve. The candle and the flame, the night grows still again. Somewhere inside that stillness, a quiet light flickers. Not blazing, not fading, just alive. It's the light of awareness, the one that has always been burning, even when we forget to look. In the time of the Buddha, it was said that a single candle could light 1,000 others without losing its own flame. This simple truth holds the essence of anatta, non-self, or the realization that nothing we call me stands alone. When one candle shares its flame, the fire is not divided, it is multiplied. The light continues, but no one can say which flame belongs to whom. This is the heart of the teaching. You are not a separate flame, struggling against the dark. You are the fire itself, endlessly shared, endlessly renewed. Imagine holding a candle in your hands. You cup it gently, afraid the wind might blow it out. Then someone nearby lights their candle from yours and another from theirs. Soon, the room glows with warmth, not from control, but from connection. This is how compassion moves through the world. We think of selflessness as a sacrifice, as losing something. But what if it's simply the way light travels? The candle does not mourn when it shares its fire, it fulfills its nature. So too, when we act with kindness, when we give without expecting, we are not losing. We are returning to what we've always been. The Buddha once told his disciples, "If you light a lamp for another, it will also brighten your path." He wasn't speaking only of generosity, but of understanding. Every time you see another's pain as your own, the illusion of me and you begins to soften. There is a story from Zen tradition. A monk asked his master, "What happens after enlightenment?" The master replied, "Nothing. The enlightened person lights the lantern and helps others find their way." Because awakening is not an ending. It's the beginning of gentle service, the simple act of shining so others may see. In our world today, we often think power comes from being separate, from standing out, standing above, standing apart. But true strength is the opposite. It is the quiet courage to stand with. When you see that your joy and another's joy are made of the same flame, competition dissolves and only warmth remains. Look around you now, in memory or imagination. Can you recall the people whose light has touched yours? A teacher, a friend, perhaps even a stranger who smiled when you needed it most. Their flame burns in you still, and perhaps, without knowing, you've passed that same light to someone else. The chain of kindness never truly breaks. It only changes hands. Even the body you inhabit is a borrowed lamp. The breath you take was once the breath of trees. The food that nourishes you comes from sunlight stored in the earth. Nothing you call mine was ever truly yours. Everything you are has been given and will be given again. When this understanding deepens, love becomes effortless. You stop asking, "What will I get?" and start wondering, "How can I keep the light alive?" This is what the Buddha meant by selfless compassion. Not an idea, but a way of being where giving and receiving are one motion. To live this way is to burn gently and never burn out. Take a breath and imagine your heart as that candle. With every inhale, it draws in air. With every exhale, it shines. You are not the keeper of the light. You are the light itself. And when the wind of change comes, it doesn't extinguish you. It carries your warmth onward. The room of this moment is glowing softly now, lit by countless unseen flames, all connected, all breathing together. And as their light begins to merge, you may sense something wordless within it. A peace not born from solitude, but from belonging. Let us rest with that warmth a little longer and see how this quiet fire becomes the bridge between extremes, the path of the middle way. The middle way, walking on gentle ground. The room of light softens, and in that golden stillness, another story begins, one older than temples, older than words. It is the story of a prince who sat beneath a tree and found the secret of balance. Before he was the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama lived among silk and music. His palace was filled with every comfort, but no comfort could quiet the question that haunted him. Why do people suffer, even when they have everything? One night he slipped beyond the palace gates and saw what he had been protected from all his life. An old man, a sick man, a corpse carried through the streets. The sight broke open his world. he saw that nothing, not even youth or beauty or power, could escape time. So he left everything behind, seeking the peace that would not fade. For 6 long years, Siddhartha practiced with severe ascetics in the forest. He ate so little that his ribs pressed through his skin. He held his breath until he fainted, believing that the destruction of the body would free the spirit. But even in that suffering, the same question whispered, "Why is peace still out of reach?" One morning, weak and trembling, he collapsed by a river. A village girl named Sujata saw him and offered a bowl of milk rice. At first, he hesitated. To eat would mean to fail his vow of austerity. But then, as he looked at the water flowing before him, he saw a musician tuning her instrument nearby. When the string was too tight, it broke. When too loose, it made no sound. Only when tuned just right did it sing, and in that moment, Siddhartha understood. Peace is not found in indulgence, nor in denial, but in the middle path between the two. He accepted the food, regained his strength, and soon after, under the shade of the Bodhi tree, he awakened to the truth that balance is the doorway to liberation. The middle way, the path of gentle ground, teaches us to walk not too fast, not too slow, not clinging to pleasure, not fearing pain. It is the art of just enough. Enough effort to stay awake, enough surrender to let life breathe through us. In today's world, the same lesson still whispers. We race towards success until exhaustion becomes normal. Then we swing to the opposite extreme, escaping, withdrawing, calling it peace while our hearts still ache. But the middle way is neither escape nor excess. It's the quiet courage to stay with what is, to work, rest, love, and grieve without losing balance. Think of a bird in flight. It cannot soar with only one wing. Effort and ease must move together, or a potter shaping clay. Too much pressure breaks the form, too little leaves it shapeless. Balance is not a place you find once and keep forever. It is a rhythm you learn to dance with, again and again. When you begin to live this way, the ordinary becomes sacred. You eat when hungry, sleep when tired, speak when words are kind, and stay silent when silence is true. No rules, no extremes, just presence. That is the gentle ground where wisdom grows. The Buddha called this path the way of the heart that neither resists nor clings. It's not a line between two walls, but an open field where you can walk freely, aware of both sky and soil, aware of your steps touching the earth. Take a breath now and feel your own middle ground. Between inhaling and exhaling, between wanting and letting go, there is a moment of perfect ease. That is the middle way, alive inside you. And as you rest in that balance, you may notice a subtle sweetness arising, a reminder that desire too has its charm and its danger. When it is touched with mindfulness, it guides. When left unchecked, it wounds. Let us look at that sweetness next, and the hidden blade beneath it. The honey on the blade. There's a sweetness in life that draws us in, a sweetness that promises comfort, pleasure, and belonging. It comes in many shapes. A new desire fulfilled, a touch that lingers, a dream that feels almost within reach. And yet the Buddha warned that not every sweetness is safe. He told a parable long ago. A traveler, lost in the desert, came upon a sharp knife, its edge glistening with drops of honey. Parched and hungry, he tasted it. And for a moment, the sweetness filled him with delight. But when he looked down, his tongue was bleeding. The honey was real, but so was the blade. This is the way of tanha, craving. Not the simple wish to live or create, but the restless hunger that says, I'll be happy only when. We chase that when through possessions, success, affection, and each time we reach it, the sweetness fades, leaving us thirsty for more. Look gently at your own life. How many times have you said, if I could just have this job, this person, this peace of mind, and when you got it, How long did the satisfaction last before the next desire appeared? Desire itself is not evil. It's the energy of becoming. But when it rules us, it becomes the blade that cuts unseen. The Buddha saw that suffering arises not because the world is cruel, but because the mind clings to its wants like fire clings to oxygen. When the wanting burns, it consumes everything, even joy. There's a story told of a monk who asked his teacher, "Master, how can I end desire?" The teacher poured tea until it overflowed the cup, and the monk cried out, "It's spilling!" The master smiled. Only when you stop trying to fill the cup can it hold what it already has. We live in a world that praises the full cup. More goals, more experiences, more validation. But fullness without awareness turns heavy. It spills over, drowning the quiet contentment beneath. The honey on the blade isn't only found in wealth or pleasure. It hides in spiritual pride too. The wish to become enlightened, to be seen as wise, calm, or pure. Even this can become another craving disguised in holy robes. The middle way, which we touched upon, doesn't reject sweetness. It invites awareness into it. When you taste honey knowing the knife is sharp, you savor with mindfulness, not greed. You enjoy without clinging. You let the flavor come and go like music fading in the air. Try to see how each moment, even the most ordinary, carries its own sweetness. The warmth of sunlight on your face, the rhythm of your breath, the sound of someone's laughter echoing down a hallway. These are drops of honey that do not wound. They nourish because they are received without grasping. Take a breath now. Inhale the sweetness of being alive. Exhale the tension that says, "It must stay this way." Notice how, when you let go of holding, a deeper joy begins to flow in. A joy not dependent on circumstances, but arising naturally from clarity. This is the heart of Buddhist wisdom: to know pleasure, yet not be owned by it; to love fully, yet not fear loss; to walk the earth tasting its honey without forgetting the blade beneath. And perhaps this is why even the gods, those radiant beings of light and abundance, still look down upon the human world with longing. For they too, amidst endless delight, feel the faint sting of impermanence and wonder what lies beyond the sweet illusion. Even in heaven, desire hums softly beneath the golden light. Let us turn our gaze there for a moment, to the radiant ones who have everything, yet still search for something more. The gods who still seek answers, somewhere beyond the human heart, where pleasure never ends and time stands still. Even the gods begin to wonder, if nothing is missing, why do we still feel incomplete? Let us wander there next, into that luminous question. In the old sutras, it is said that the gods live in radiant realms above the clouds. Their bodies are made of light, their desires instantly fulfilled. They feast on fragrance, they wear garments of energy. They dwell for ages in unbroken bliss. Yet among those shimmering heavens, there comes a moment, quiet and fragile, when a god suddenly pauses, looks upon their endless delights, and feels a soft ache. Like a note held too long in the air, it is the whisper of impermanence. Even the gods, the Buddha taught, are not free from the law of change. Their pleasures last for eons, but one day, the fragrance fades, the music slows, and the brilliance that once dazzled them begins to dim. And in that fading, they glimpse what all beings eventually see, that joy built on craving cannot endure. One such god, it is said, once descended to visit the Buddha. He bowed and asked, "Blessed One, if the heavens are so pure and luminous, why do I feel restless still?" The Buddha looked at him gently and said, "Because even joy, when clung to, becomes suffering. You do not suffer because of what is missing, but because you fear losing what you have." The god wept. He had never known fear in his world of abundance. He thought enlightenment meant eternal pleasure. But in that moment, he understood that true liberation lies not in what continues, but in what can never be taken away: awareness itself. The God's sorrow is our own, reflected on a grander scale. We too build our little heavens, a career, a romance, a reputation, each shining bright for a while, each destined to fade. And when the light dims, we call it loss, not realizing that life has simply turned the page. The Buddha said, "There is no place in the universe free from change, not even among the gods." But he also said, "There is a peace beyond both heaven and earth, the peace of understanding." To understand is to see that everything, even bliss, is conditional. To awaken is to rest in the unconditioned, in that which neither arises nor passes. You can call it awareness. You can call it stillness. You can simply call it home. Imagine for a moment that you are one of those radiant beings, surrounded by light so perfect it feels unreal. At first you marvel, then, slowly, you sense something missing. The warmth of effort, the texture of contrast, the fragile beauty that comes only from knowing things will end. That longing for imperfection is the divine nostalgia for wisdom. It is the universe remembering itself through the taste of change. So even the gods must learn, as we do, to bow before impermanence, to let go of clinging, and to return again and again to the simple miracle of awareness. Because in the vast wheel of existence, heaven is not above and earth below. They are both within us, turning with every breath, rising and falling like waves of the same sea. And if heaven itself can tremble, so can the heart that loves, the mind that dreams, the soul that seeks. But trembling isn't a flaw. It's life remembering how to move. Listen closely. Do you feel it now? That gentle pulse of movement inside you. It is the same rhythm that carries all beings through countless realms of experience. That rhythm is what Buddhists call samsara, the great circle of becoming. Beyond the shimmer of the divine lies a deeper truth, that every world of bliss, of hunger, of conflict, breathes quietly inside us. Let us listen to those worlds now, one by one, within the vastness of our own mind. The 6 realms. Within, as the light of heaven fades into silence, what remains is not far away, but close, quietly unfolding inside the heart. Let us turn inward now and see how all realms, high and low, are already living within us. In Buddhist teaching, the wheel of existence turns through 6 realms: heaven, human, ashura, animal, hungry ghost, and hell. Many imagine them as distant worlds, but the wise know these realms bloom and vanish right here, within the mind. Each moment we live in peace, anger, greed, or compassion, we walk through one of these invisible lands. Let's walk through them gently, not as travelers escaping, but as witnesses learning to see. The heaven realm, joy without ground. This is the realm of delight, the high of success, the glow of being loved, the calm after achievement. It feels endless, golden, weightless. But joy without awareness soon drifts into complacency. We cling to the feeling, afraid it will fade, and in that clinging, heaven begins to tremble. Even the gods we met before live here, mistaking pleasure for peace. True heaven is not the absence of pain, but the presence of wisdom within it. The human realm, the precious middle, this is where balance resides. Neither eternal pleasure nor endless torment, but the fragile gift of awareness, the chance to awaken. The Buddha called human life rare as a turtle surfacing once every 100 years to place its head through a floating ring. Why so rare? Because here, joy and sorrow meet in equal measure, giving rise to understanding. In this realm, pain can teach and love can heal, if we dare to stay awake. The Asura realm, the battle of comparison. Here live the demigods, beings powerful, intelligent, yet consumed by jealousy and competition. In modern life, this realm looks like endless striving, comparing, competing, scrolling through others' triumphs. We tell ourselves, "I'm not enough until I'm above." But no one wins a race against their own insecurity. Peace returns the moment we bow instead of climb. The animal realm. The sleep of habit. This is the world of instinct and survival. Eat, work, rest, repeat, without reflection. Many of us wander here unknowingly, lost in routine, reacting instead of living. Yet even the animal realm carries innocence. When seen with mindfulness, habit can become presence, and instinct can become harmony. The hungry ghost realm. The thirst that never ends. These are beings with vast bellies and narrow throats, forever starving, never satisfied. You can see them walking among us, in endless consumption, in the ache of never feeling enough. We have all tasted this hunger, for attention, for validation, for love that proves our worth. The cure is not abundance, but gentleness, to feed the heart with compassion instead of craving. The hell realm, fire of resistance. This realm is not beneath the earth. It burns inside when we refuse what is. Anger, guilt, shame, these are its flames. But even hell, when seen with awareness, becomes a teacher. Because suffering, when understood, purifies pride. Each time we breathe through pain instead of fighting it, a door opens, and the fire softens into light. These 6 realms are not separate worlds. They are moods, movements of consciousness, ripples on the same vast sea. In a single day, you might ascend to heaven with laughter, fall into hell with a harsh word, and wander through hunger, jealousy, and peace, all before the sun sets. Seeing this is liberation itself, because the moment you recognize the realm you are in, you are already standing at its edge, free to step out and return home to awareness. Take a slow breath. As you breathe in, feel all these worlds rise and fall within you, not enemies, not prisons, but mirrors reflecting the many faces of the same life. And if you look closely at those reflections, you may begin to notice something even more subtle. A presence behind every mask, a quiet witness untouched by gain or loss. That presence is who you truly are. Let us turn to that now, to the place where the self itself begins to dissolve into light. When the self dissolves somewhere behind the rise and fall of every realm, something constant waits, a quiet watcher that never shouts, never claims, never changes. It has been here through every joy, every sorrow, silently witnessing the play of your own becoming. We call it awareness, but it has no name, no shape, no boundary. It simply knows. When the Buddha spoke of anatta, no fixed self, he wasn't denying existence, he was freeing it. He saw that what we call self is a collection of movements, thoughts, memories, sensations, each appearing and fading like ripples in a pond. And yet, we cling to these ripples and call them me. But who are you when the ripples rest? Who are you before the thought I am arises? Imagine a single drop of water falling from a leaf into the ocean. For a moment, it trembles on the surface, shimmering in the sunlight, as if saying, "This is me." Then it merges quietly into the sea, and in that merging, nothing is lost. The drop doesn't disappear. It expands, becoming part of every tide, every wave, every shore. This is not death, it is freedom. The smallness dissolves, and vastness begins. When you let go of the story of I, you don't vanish. You awaken into everything. The Buddha once said, "Just as a flame cannot be found when the lamp goes out, so too the self cannot be grasped when ignorance fades." He didn't mean you become nothing. He meant you become no thing. Limitless, unconfined, like space holding all things but belonging to none. In our daily lives, the illusion of self is subtle. It hides in every mine, in every opinion we defend, in every expectation we carry. We feel threatened when someone disagrees because we believe they're hurting us. But if you look closely, the me that feels attacked is only a thought, a passing cloud in an open sky. Watch that cloud now. See how it forms, drifts, and dissolves. The sky never fights it, never clings to it, never fears it will return. You are that sky, vast, untouched, and quietly alive. The fear of losing the self is the last veil before freedom. Because when the I softens, love becomes boundless. You no longer love as someone. You simply love, the way the sun shines or the rain falls, without choosing where to land. There's an old Zen story about two mirrors facing each other. One says, "I reflect the world." The other replies, "I reflect you." And in their endless reflection, there is no mirror, only light. When the self dissolves, life reflects itself perfectly, without distortion. Try feeling this now. As you breathe in, let go of your name, your roles, your story for just a moment. Who breathes when the name is gone? Who listens when there is only listening? The answer cannot be spoken because you are already it. When the self dissolves, the walls between you and life fall away. Every sound becomes intimate. Every face your own reflection. Every heartbeat in the world beats softly within you. And in that quiet unity, the mind stops searching for meaning, because meaning has become experience itself. Stay here for a breath longer, not as someone resting, but as resting itself. The drop has returned to the ocean, and the ocean is whispering through your pulse. Listen. Can you feel that gentle hum behind all movement? It is awareness looking at itself. The moment before thought divides the world into names. That is the doorway beyond words, the entrance to pure seeing. In this silence, the mind begins to loosen its maps, the lines, the names, the certainties. What remains is pure seeing, unfiltered and alive. Let us walk there gently, into the landscape that no map can capture. Seeing beyond the map in this silence, the mind begins to loosen its maps, the lines, the names, the certainties. What remains is pure seeing, unfiltered and alive. Let us walk there gently, into the landscape that no map can capture. The Buddha once held up a single flower before his disciples. No words, no explanations, only silence. Most sat waiting for his teaching, but one monk, Mahakashapa, simply smiled. In that moment, it was said, the Buddha transmitted the true Dharma, beyond scripture, beyond thought, beyond form. That simple gesture became known as the flower sermon, a teaching without words, because truth, once named, becomes smaller than itself. The flower was not a symbol, it was the truth just as it was. Our minds love to make maps. We draw lines around ideas, label experiences, categorize right and wrong, sacred and ordinary. Maps are useful. They help us navigate the world, but sometimes we forget they are not the world itself. Think of a traveler studying a map of a mountain. He memorizes every contour, every path, but he never steps onto the trail. When he finally does, he finds the mountain larger, wilder, and more alive than any paper could show. The air smells of pine and stone. The wind hums secrets no ink could capture. Only then does he realize the map was never wrong. It was only incomplete. In the same way, the teachings of Buddhism, even the words of the Buddha, are maps pointing toward direct experience. They are precious, but not the destination. To mistake the teaching for the truth is to worship the signpost and never take the journey. Zen masters remind us, don't confuse the finger pointing at the moon for the moon itself. The words, the rituals, the philosophies, they are fingers. They help us look up, but the seeing is ours alone. Every time you look directly into your own experience without the filter of should, or must. You are seeing beyond the map. When you notice a thought arise and pass without calling it good or bad, you are stepping into the living terrain of the mind. When you feel sadness without turning away, you are tasting the rawness of reality, not an idea of life, but life itself. Knowledge tells you that a flame is hot. Wisdom feels its warmth and knows how to hold it without being burned. This is why the Buddha encouraged not blind belief, but ehipassiko. Come and see for yourself. The truth must be lived, not memorized, because memorization feeds the mind, but realization frees it. There's a quiet joy that comes when the mind stops insisting that it knows, when it no longer says, I understand, but instead whispers, I see. In that moment, learning turns into awareness, and awareness turns into peace. Take a breath and imagine laying all your maps on the ground. Your plans, your beliefs, even your definitions of right and wrong. See how the wind plays with them, lifting the corners, curling the edges. Now look up. The landscape before you has been there all along. It needed no label to exist. To live beyond the map is not to reject knowledge, but to let it serve rather than rule. Use it, but don't live inside it. Let wisdom breathe through your knowing, like wind through tall grass. Soft, alive, never still. Stay here for a while. Notice the simplicity of this seeing, the freshness of each sound, each breath, each flicker of thought. This is what the Buddha shared with a single flower. Not a theory, but a direct meeting with reality. And when seeing becomes this clear, another insight dawns naturally, that reality is not divided into parts at all, but woven together in a harmony so subtle, it can only be felt, not explained. As the boundaries fade, what remains is a quiet harmony, the gentle knowing that nothing stands alone. Every breath, every sound, every life is woven from the same invisible thread. Let us open our hearts to that truth together. The four realms of reality, as the boundaries fade, what remains is a quiet harmony, the gentle knowing that nothing stands alone. Every breath, every sound, every life is woven from the same invisible thread. Let us open our hearts to that truth together. Long ago, Buddhist masters described this harmony through four realms of reality. Four ways of seeing the same world, not as doctrine, but as a shift in vision, each layer revealing a deeper rhythm of connection. The realm of separate things, the world of names. This is the reality most of us know. Here, a tree is a tree, a river is a river, you are you, and I am I. We live by distinctions, because the mind needs edges to navigate the day. This world is not an illusion. It is necessary. It allows us to walk, speak, build, and love. But when we cling only to this level, we forget that the map is not the mountain, and we suffer from the loneliness of me and you. The realm of interconnection, the web of causes. If you look more closely, the edges soften. You see that the tree is not separate from the rain not separate from the cloud not separate from the ocean. Every being arises because of everything else. The dance of pratyasamutpada, dependent origination. In this realm, you and I are verbs, not nouns, events happening together. The air you breathe right now has passed through mountains, forests, and countless hearts before yours. When we see this, compassion blooms naturally. The realm of the one, the ocean. Beneath the waves deeper still, the many dissolve into one field of being. Here, there is no tree, no cloud, no you, no me, only the vast presence in which all things appear. It is like standing on the shore and realizing that every wave is just the ocean taking a temporary shape. The Buddha called this tathata, suchness. Things are not sacred because we name them so, but because they already are. In this seeing, peace arises effortlessly, like the calm beneath every ripple. The realm of mutual containment. One in all in one. And then, the deepest vision, where the many and the one reflect each other endlessly. Each grain of sand contains the whole desert. Each drop of water holds the entire sea. In a single breath, galaxies turn. In a single thought, lifetimes unfold. This is the realm described in the Avatamsaka Sutra, where a flower contains the universe, and the universe blooms through that flower. It is said that to the awakened eye, a spiderweb glistening with dew at dawn is no different from the stars scattered across the night sky, each drop reflecting all the others. Here, nothing stands alone, and because nothing stands alone, everything shines. To glimpse these realms is not to leave ordinary life. It is to see the extraordinary within it. You can eat your meal in the first realm, rice, spoon, bowl. You can bless it in the second, rain, soil, sunlight. You can taste its suchness in the third, awareness of being. And you can realize in the fourth that each bite is the whole universe feeding itself. When seen this way, gratitude deepens without effort. Every act becomes holy, not because of belief, but because the boundary between giver and receiver dissolves. Take a breath now. Feel how your inhale enters the same air shared by all beings, and your exhale becomes a gift returning to the world. This is the living mandala of existence, the endless reflection of one life in another. Stay in this awareness for a moment. Let your eyes soften, your thoughts settle. Even beauty, when grasped too tightly, can harden into pride. Even wisdom, when claimed as mine, can turn into another chain. So how do we walk this vision without losing humility? That is the next lesson waiting quietly ahead. The moment when even goodness, when held too tightly, begins to hurt. When too much good becomes bad, the world glows softly when seen through awareness. But even light, when too bright, can blind the eyes. Even sweetness, when taken without pause, can numb the tongue. So too with goodness. It heals when balanced, and hurts when held too tightly. In the early days of his journey, before awakening beneath the Bodhi tree, the Buddha himself walked this edge. He practiced extreme discipline, fasting, self-denial, sleepless meditation. His body became frail, his mind dizzy from hunger. Yet peace did not come. It was only when he accepted a bowl of milk rice from a kind girl that he realized even virtue, when clung to, becomes another form of attachment. Goodness, when forced, turns rigid. When softened by wisdom, it becomes grace. There is a story from later times. A young monk devoted himself so intensely to kindness that he gave away every possession, even his robes. Naked in the cold, he caught fever. As he lay shivering, his teacher visited him and said, "Compassion without discernment is like a river without banks. It floods instead of nourishing." True goodness is not an act of excess, but a dance of awareness, knowing when to give, when to rest, when to act, and when to simply be. In our modern world, we often mistake striving for virtue. We try to be endlessly productive, endlessly positive, endlessly kind, as if effort itself were proof of worth. We meditate harder, love harder, even rest harder, turning calm into another goal. But peace doesn't come from more effort. It comes from right effort, gentle, balanced, attuned. Imagine a potter shaping clay. If he presses too hard, the bowl collapses. Too softly, it never forms. Wisdom is the pressure that fits the moment. Goodness without wisdom is noise. Wisdom without goodness is cold. Together, they make music. The Buddha called this balance samavayama, right effort. It means applying energy not from ambition, but from clarity. It's like tending a fire. Too little wood, it dies. Too much, it smothers itself. To sustain the flame, one must know how to feed it slowly, mindfully. Sometimes, what looks like virtue on the surface is really fear wearing holy robes. We say yes when our heart says no, thinking kindness means never refusing. We give and give until we are empty, and then call that emptiness compassion. But the Buddha taught that real compassion includes yourself. You cannot pour water from a dry well. To be truly good is not to do more, but to see more. To notice when giving becomes proving, when helping becomes control, when devotion becomes pride. Awareness transforms every too much into enough. Take a breath now. Notice the part of you that always wants to improve, to fix, to perfect. Can you see how that part simply wants to be safe, to be loved, to be worthy? Smile at it, gently, without judgment. That smile is wisdom touching goodness. Even the path of awakening can become another trap if we run after enlightenment like a prize. The Buddha once said, "If you meet me on the road, kill me." He meant don't worship the idea of awakening. The moment you cling to the image of the Buddha, you've lost the living truth he embodied, the truth of freedom here and now. Every step toward the good is sacred. But to walk wisely, we must also know when to pause, to listen, to let the good rest in silence. For even right effort, if not grounded in stillness, becomes another form of striving. Let us explore that balance next. The art of doing without forcing, of effort without tension, of movement born from peace itself, the art of still effort. The candle of wisdom burns steady now, its flame neither straining nor still. This is the art of still effort, moving without forcing, working without clinging, living with the calm precision of nature itself. The Buddha once said, "Peace is not the result of striving, peace is the path itself." In those words hides a paradox. We must walk the path, but without pushing the river to flow. Imagine a gardener tending her garden. She cannot make the flowers bloom by pulling their petals open. She waters the soil, removes the weeds, and trusts the sun to do the rest. This is right effort, gentle, patient, rooted in faith. The Zen masters call it Wu Wei, action through non-resistance. It doesn't mean laziness or passivity. It means allowing things to unfold according to their own rhythm. The tree does not rush its branches into being. The moon never hurries to rise, yet everything gets done. When effort becomes frantic, it loses its grace. When it is grounded in awareness, it becomes effortless. Like a musician who has practiced so deeply that the melody flows through her hands without thought, you too can live from that same rhythm, doing, yet not doing. There is a story of a monk who came to his master and said, "I am exhausted from meditation. Every day I sit, forcing my mind to be still, but it runs like a wild horse." The master smiled and poured him a cup of tea. As the steam rose between them, he said, "Do you see the steam? It rises by itself when the water is ready. Sit until you are warm enough, and stillness will rise on its own." True still effort begins in trust, not in control, not in striving, but in quiet confidence that everything has its season. When the heart is open, life moves through you naturally. Words become kind, actions become clear, and decisions flow like water finding its level. You can feel this even in the smallest acts. When you wash a cup, feel the weight of it in your hand, the temperature of the water, the sound of it touching porcelain. Let each gesture be complete in itself, without rushing toward the next. This is meditation in motion, the stillness that moves. The Buddha taught 4 kinds of right effort: to prevent unwholesome states, to release them when they arise, to cultivate wholesome qualities, and to sustain them once born. But these are not commands to struggle. They are invitations to remember. Awareness does not fight darkness. It simply brings light, and the darkness fades. So too, your life does not need fixing. It needs seeing. When you stop forcing yourself to be better, you begin to act from the wisdom that was there all along. That is still effort guided by silence. Take a moment now to notice your breath. Don't deepen it, don't slow it, just watch. Can you feel how it finds its own rhythm without your command? That is life breathing through you, effortlessly doing what needs to be done. Even the stars, spinning in vast cosmic silence, move with perfect balance, neither rushing nor resting. You too are part of that celestial choreography. Every heartbeat, every blink, every breath is the universe continuing its practice through you. When you learn to trust this dance, you no longer live by control, but by communion. Your work, your rest, your words, all flow from the same still source. And in that quiet flow, something mysterious begins to happen. The questions that once filled the mind start to echo softly back into silence. They don't disappear, they transform into wonder. When everything becomes still, a quiet truth begins to rise within you. Listen closely. Peace itself is trying to speak. The sound of one hand clapping. And when silence grows deep enough, it begins to reveal its own voice, the one that speaks without sound. There's an old Zen question, whispered across centuries. What is the sound of one hand clapping? It cannot be answered with logic. It is not a riddle to be solved, but a door to be opened. When a student first hears it, the mind rushes to build explanations. Perhaps it's the sound of wind, or heartbeat, or imagination. But none of these are quite right, because the sound of one hand clapping is not something you hear. It's something you realize. To understand it, you must step beyond the mind that needs to understand. You must feel the space between sound and silence, between effort and rest, between you and everything else. And notice that they were never truly separate. There was once a monk who spent years meditating on this question. He practiced day and night, trying to force an answer to appear. Finally, exhausted, he went to his master and said, "I can't find it. No matter how I try, I can't hear the sound." The master simply smiled and struck the bell beside him. The ringing filled the room, clear, fading, infinite. When it vanished into silence, the master said, "There, do you hear it now?" The monk bowed deeply, tears in his eyes. He understood. The sound of one hand clapping was not in the bell, nor in the silence after. It was in the listening itself. The teaching is simple, yet vast. The answer you seek is already present, but hidden by the noise of seeking. When the mind quiets, life begins to answer itself. Think about how often we fill silence with words, rushing to reply, to fix, to prove we understand. But when you stop trying to explain and simply listen, you realize that silence is not empty. It's full of awareness, of presence, of life breathing around you. Try it now. Take a slow breath and close your eyes. Let the sounds around you flow as they are. The hum of the night, the rhythm of your own breath, the distant pulse of a world still turning. Between those sounds, there's a space, a soft golden stillness that holds them all together. That stillness is the sound of one hand clapping, the sound of life before it becomes divided into words. The Zen masters used this koan not to confuse, but to awaken. They wanted the student to experience the moment when the mind stops asking and simply is. Because in that moment, you don't find an answer, you become it. Imagine a candle flame. It flickers, yet the light it gives is constant. When you stop staring at the flicker, you begin to feel the warmth. The same is true for the mind. When you stop chasing thoughts, you begin to feel awareness itself. The sound of one hand clapping is the meeting point of all opposites. Noise and silence, form and emptiness, self and world. It is the pause between heartbeats, the breath before a word, the awareness behind all doing. It is what remains when nothing else is needed. This is why Zen masters often smiled instead of answering. Their silence wasn't refusal, it was invitation. They wanted you to hear what can only be heard when you stop listening for it. Stay in this stillness for a moment longer. Notice how peaceful the mind becomes when it no longer demands meaning. Notice how alive the body feels when thought gives it space to breathe. This is meditation without effort, understanding without concept. It is the heart recognizing itself in everything. And when this recognition settles, you may begin to sense something gentle stirring again. The pull of ordinary life returning, the call of daily acts waiting to be done. But now, those acts no longer feel ordinary. They shimmer with the same quiet truth you've just touched. Let us carry this awareness into that simplicity next and see how enlightenment hides in the smallest gestures of everyday life. Zen in the everyday, the silence fades gently now. But something remains, a quiet clarity that lingers like the scent of rain after it falls. You may feel it too. The world looks the same, yet everything seems softer, more alive. This is the gift of Zen in the everyday, to see the sacred in what once seemed small. There's an old saying in Zen: before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. It sounds simple, almost playful, but within it lies the whole path. Enlightenment doesn't change what you do, it changes how you see. When the Buddha walked through villages, he didn't float above the ground. He accepted food from strangers, thanked them, and smiled at their children. Every gesture was awareness in motion. No part of life was too ordinary to be holy. Look around you. The cup on your table, the breath leaving your body, the morning light across the floor. Each one is a gate to awakening. Zen is not a place you visit. It's the way you meet this very moment. When you wash a dish, feel the water against your hands. Warm, cool, flowing. Don't rush toward the next plate. Let each motion be complete in itself, as if the entire universe existed for that single rinse. Because in truth it does. When you walk, feel your feet touch the earth. The ground has been waiting for you since the beginning of time. Every step is a conversation between you and the planet. You pressing down, the earth holding you up. When you eat, taste the journey of what you hold. The rain that fed the grain, the sun that warmed the field, the hands that harvested and prepared it. In that awareness, gratitude becomes as natural as breathing. Zen in the everyday is not about adding meaning to life. It's about seeing the meaning that was always there. It's not about doing less, but doing with presence. A smile becomes meditation. A pause becomes prayer. Even silence between two people becomes connection. A student once asked a Zen master, "What is enlightenment?" The master said, "When hungry, eat. When tired, sleep." The student frowned. "But we all do that." The master replied, "No. When you eat, you are already thinking of sleep. When you sleep, you are already planning breakfast." To live in the present is the rarest art of all. We spend our lives chasing special moments, the next trip, the next success, the next escape. But the miracle is not somewhere waiting. It is already here, folded inside the simplest things. The rhythm of a broom, the sound of your breath, the way sunlight warms your hands. Zen asks only this: to be fully where you are, to see the eternal in the ordinary and the ordinary as eternal. When you drink tea, drink only tea, not your worries, not your memories, just the gentle rise of steam and the taste of now. Take a slow breath and look around you once more. Notice how the world keeps moving, But inside, there's a still point, a space where you no longer need to chase or hold. That space is Zen. It doesn't demand belief, only attention. And in this attention, life stops feeling like a task to manage and becomes a song to be heard. Work, rest, conversation, silence. Each note part of one perfect melody called being alive. Stay in that melody for a moment. Feel how peace hums softly underneath every motion. But even this peace, if we cling to it, can slip away. When effort turns into striving, even calm becomes another goal. Like trying to hold moonlight in your hands, even peace escapes when you cling to it. The harder you try to wake up, the deeper the dream becomes. The trap of trying too hard, but even peace can become another cage when we try too hard to hold it still. Sometimes the more we chase awakening, the farther it drifts away. Let us feel that gentle paradox together, how striving itself can hide the very freedom we seek. There's a quiet irony in the human heart. We want peace so badly that we turn it into another project, a goal to achieve, a finish line to cross. We breathe, not to breathe, but to be good at breathing. We meditate to stop thinking, and when thoughts appear, we scold ourselves for failing. We turn relaxation into a competition, stillness into a performance. Zen calls this the trap of trying too hard. It's like standing in a still pond, desperate to see your reflection clearly. The more you stir the water with your hands, the more the image ripples and fades. Only when you stop trying does the surface become calm enough to reflect the sky. There was once a student who told his master, "I am practicing meditation with all my strength, but my mind won't stop moving." The master replied, "Then stop trying to stop it." The student frowned. "Then what should I do?" "Nothing," said the master, "and watch what happens." Days later, the student returned with tears in his eyes. "When I stopped forcing my mind to be still, it became still by itself." The master smiled. "That," he said, "is true effort, effort without struggle." We've been taught that progress requires force, that success comes from striving, and in many things, that's true. But in the art of awakening, force works in reverse. You can't push a seed to sprout or order the sun to rise sooner. The path opens only when you stop pushing. This doesn't mean we abandon effort. It means we change its nature. Instead of effort fueled by tension, we practice effort born of trust. A trust that the mind knows how to heal if given space, that the heart knows how to find balance if we stop pulling at it. Think of how sleep comes. You can't make yourself fall asleep. You can only create the conditions. Dim the lights, rest the body, let go of thought. And then sleep arrives on its own. Peace is the same. You prepare the soil, but the flower blooms by grace. When you notice yourself forcing calm, take a breath and smile gently. Recognize the effort underneath, the tender wish to be okay. Even that is love in disguise. See it, soften it, and return to breathing. The mind that clings to enlightenment is like a hand trying to grasp water. The tighter the grip, the less it holds. But open the palm, and the water stays. This is how stillness is found, not by capture, but by welcome. You may realize that awakening was never far. It's not at the end of striving, but right here, in the moment you stop running after it. It has been waiting, patiently, like the sky waiting for clouds to pass. Take a slow breath now. Feel how the chest rises and falls without your command. Even your breathing does not need control. It only needs permission. When life feels heavy, perhaps it's not because you're doing too little, but because you're trying too hard. Let this moment be enough. Let the air move through you like the river through its banks, flowing not from will, but from nature. And when you learn to flow like that, you begin to understand the next truth, that the teachings themselves are only a raft, a vessel meant to carry you across, not something to cling to forever. Let's drift with that realization now and see what happens when even wisdom learns how to let go. The raft and the river flows quietly under the morning light. You can hear it, the steady rhythm of water finding its way. It doesn't rush, yet it never stops. It simply follows the pull of gravity, trusting the path that has always been there. This river, the Buddha once said, is like the path to awakening, and the teachings, even his own words, are like a raft. A man, lost on one shore of the river, longs to cross to the other side. He gathers reeds, ties them together, and builds a simple raft. Through effort and trust, he paddles across and finally reaches safety. Now imagine him lifting that raft onto his shoulders, carrying it everywhere he goes, because it once saved his life. He stumbles, exhausted, but refuses to let it go. The Buddha looked at his disciples and said, "Would that man be wise or foolish?" They replied, "Foolish, Lord." He smiled. "So it is with my teachings. They are meant to carry you across, not to be held once you have arrived." It's a story simple enough for a child to understand, and yet, how easily we forget. We cling not just to possessions, but to ideas, beliefs, even wisdom itself. We turn the map into the territory, the practice into identity, and the raft into a burden. There's a saying in Zen, if you want to see the moon, don't cling to the finger pointing at it. The teachings are that finger, a direction, not a destination. The moment we start worshipping the finger, we lose sight of the sky. In our daily lives, this happens in subtler ways. We cling to routines meant to free us. Morning meditations, affirmations, even kindness itself. Turning them into rules we must not break. We forget that discipline is meant to serve love, not replace it. We forget that every practice, no matter how sacred, must one day dissolve into presence. The raft is useful only because of the river. Once you've crossed, the river continues to flow, inviting you to walk beside it, to listen to its song. Freedom isn't found in holding on to the means. It's found in knowing when to let go. There's a story of a monk who spent years memorizing every sutra he could find. One day, his master asked, "What is the essence of all you have learned?" The monk recited 1,000 verses, but the master shook his head. Finally, exhausted, the monk whispered, "I don't know anymore." The master smiled. "Good, now your mind is free enough to see. Letting go of the raft doesn't mean rejecting it. It means bowing to it with gratitude, then setting it down gently." The Buddha didn't ask his followers to abandon his words, only to understand their purpose. The teachings point toward direct seeing, not endless repeating. Try reflecting on this as you breathe. Each inhale carries in what you need. Each exhale releases what has served its purpose. If you held your breath forever, you'd suffocate. If you never breathed in, you'd fade. Balance is life's only law, taking and releasing, learning and letting go. When you understand this, every teaching becomes alive again, not as a command, but as a living friend. You carry it in your heart, not on your back. The Buddha once said, "My words are like a raft. Once you have crossed, let them go." And perhaps that's why true wisdom feels light, because it travels empty-handed. Look at the river again. It doesn't hold the water it has carried. It keeps giving, keeps flowing, keeps beginning anew with every curve. And as you follow its rhythm, you may notice something sweet along its banks, a small red fruit glistening in the sun, a reminder that joy exists even in the middle of the journey. Every step of the river carries its own sweetness, but only the one who stops to taste it truly knows the moment. The strawberry of the present moment, and somewhere along this flowing river, A sweetness waits. Simple, fleeting, yet complete in itself. Let us pause there for a while, where the present moment ripens like a strawberry in the sun. There is an old Buddhist story about a man being chased by two tigers, one from the past, one from the future. Running for his life, he reaches the edge of a cliff. Below him, another tiger waits. In his panic, he grabs a vine and hangs between the two. As he dangles there, he notices a single, ripe strawberry growing near his hand. The man looks up. The tigers roar. He looks down. The other tiger growls. Death above, death below. And yet, he reaches out, picks the strawberry, and tastes it. It is said that in that moment he smiled. No escape, no rescue. Just the pure, unrepeatable taste of now. The story sounds simple, even strange, but it carries a truth that touches every heart. Life will always roar from both directions. The past calls out with regret. The future growls with fear. If we wait for silence to begin living, we will hang forever between them. The strawberry represents the only freedom we truly have. The freedom to be awake in this breath, this heartbeat, this fleeting instant, to taste life while it's happening. In our modern world, we are always chased by invisible tigers. Deadlines, messages, memories, expectations. They roar in our ears from morning to night. They promise safety if we just move faster, answer quicker, do more. But the faster we run, the less we truly live. We scroll through sunsets instead of watching them. We record laughter instead of joining it. We plan vacations but forget to arrive. And yet, right beside us, 1,000 strawberries keep ripening quietly. The warmth of sunlight on your face, the sound of a friend's voice, the scent of morning coffee, the softness of your breath before sleep. But we rarely taste them. We run instead. Zen invites us to stop running, to pause long enough to taste the sweetness hidden in ordinary things. When you drink tea, don't just drink, taste. When you listen, don't just wait to speak, hear. When you breathe, don't just survive, feel the life moving through you. Every moment fully lived is a strawberry tasted, and no two strawberries, no two moments are ever the same. The man in the story didn't ignore his danger. He simply realized that fear could not steal the present from him. In tasting that fruit, he discovered a joy untouched by past or future. A joy made entirely of now. You can try this too. Take a slow breath and let it be your strawberry. You don't need to fix the past. You don't need to predict the future. Just taste the air as it enters, the quiet as it leaves. That's the flavor of presence. Subtle, complete, perfectly enough. When you live this way, the tigers don't disappear. They still roam, as all uncertainties do, but they no longer own you. You become the one who can smile between them. And that smile, gentle, knowing, free, is the beginning of peace. Because the present moment is not a bridge between two fears. It is the ground beneath your feet all along. As you linger in that sweetness, you may start to notice how easily it fades, how even presence can be stolen by distraction. The world pulls at our attention, offering endless noise and glitter in exchange for silence. And slowly, the simple taste of life begins to dull. Listen closely, for beyond that glitter, another challenge awaits. The quiet hunger of a world that never stops moving. The age of endless distraction. The world hums with motion. Screens flicker, messages arrive, and silence, once a companion, has become a stranger. We live in an age where stillness is almost suspicious, where quiet feels like absence, and the mind, trained for constant input, forgets how to rest in itself. Everywhere you turn, something calls for your attention. A notification, a memory, a breaking story, a new temptation. Each one promises importance. Each one says, "Look at me, I matter most." And slowly, almost without noticing, we begin to scatter ourselves into 1,000 fragments. There is a saying in modern psychology: attention is the new currency. But the Buddha might have said, attention is the new suffering. Because what you give your attention to is what you become. Our ancestors once sat under trees and watched clouds drift by. Now we scroll through clouds of data, chasing meaning in a storm of noise. The tigers of the past and future have evolved. They now live in our pockets, roaring through tiny glowing screens. Each vibration of the phone is a whisper. Something's happening. You might miss it, and so we check again and again. Each check feeds the illusion of control, yet empties the soul of presence. Like drinking salty water, the more we consume, the thirstier we become. But the tragedy is not technology itself. It's forgetting how to use it consciously. A tool meant to connect us now often disconnects us from the very life we're living. We reach for digital comfort when lonely, yet grow lonelier with each reach. Zen invites us to meet this modern storm not with judgment, but with awareness. The point is not to reject the world, but to remember how to return to yourself within it. When you hold your phone, pause for a moment. Feel its weight, its warmth, the pulse of energy it carries. Then, before you touch the screen, take one mindful breath. Ask yourself, what am I really looking for? Most of the time, the answer is simple. We're looking for peace, disguised as distraction. The Buddha once said, what you think, you become. What you dwell upon, you attract. If the mind dwells constantly in noise, it forgets how to hear its own voice. If we never stop to rest, we start confusing movement with meaning. But meaning doesn't shout, it whispers. It lives in pauses, the quiet between messages, the space between breaths, the stillness between one thought and the next. There's a Zen story of a monk who carried water each morning. One day someone asked him, "Don't you get tired of the same task every day?" He smiled. "No. Every bucket I carry is a mirror that shows me where my mind is." You can do the same in this digital age. Every time you check your phone, use it as a bell of mindfulness. Notice, are you reaching from peace or from restlessness? If it's restlessness, pause. Let that pause be your temple. Technology isn't the enemy of awareness, distraction is. And distraction only wins when we forget that we can choose. Try this tonight. Before you fall asleep, turn off every light, every sound, every signal. Feel the silence stretch open like a vast sky. Let the body sink into the earth, the breath slow, the mind unwind. And when thoughts appear, see them as passing notifications too. You don't have to click every one. In this quiet, you may rediscover something ancient, a peace that doesn't depend on the world's volume. It's the same peace that guided the Buddha under the Bodhi tree, and it still waits within you, unchanged by time, untouched by noise. Stay here for a while. Let the silence reclaim you. Listen closely, not to the world's chaos, but to the spaces in between. For it's in those spaces that the true song of awareness begins to hum. Listen, the world is quiet now. Between each thought, a small silence hums like a heartbeat. Follow that rhythm. It will lead you home. The pause between thoughts. Stay with this quiet for a moment longer. Beneath the stream of thoughts, there is a space untouched, a silence so gentle it almost breathes. Let us enter that stillness, where the mind finally rests in its own home. Every thought has a beginning and an end, a rise and a fall, like waves meeting the shore. Between those waves lies a gap so subtle that we rarely notice it. Yet in that gap lives the secret of peace. The Buddha once compared the mind to a river. Thoughts flow like water, continuous, ever-changing, reflecting the sky one moment and mud the next. But if you watch closely, you'll see something deeper than the current, the stillness beneath it, the riverbed that never moves. That stillness is awareness itself. Most of us spend our lives caught in the current, pushed by one thought, pulled by another. We drift between what was and what might be, rarely touching what is. Even when we try to meditate, we often struggle with the mind's endless chatter. But the purpose of meditation is not to stop thoughts. It is to see the space that already exists between them. There's a story of a young monk who told his master, "My thoughts won't leave me alone." The master asked, "Then who is watching them?" The monk paused, and in that pause, he found what he had been searching for. That pause, that breath of awareness, is always present. It doesn't appear when you make it happen. It reveals itself the moment you stop trying to control. You can experience it now. Close your eyes for a moment. Notice one thought, perhaps about the past. Watch it rise, unfold, and fade. Then, before the next thought appears, feel the brief silence that follows. That silence is not empty. It is alive, like a calm lake holding the reflection of the moon. In that space, you are no longer the thinker. You are the witness, the clear sky watching clouds drift by. The clouds come and go, but the sky never moves. That sky is your true nature. Open, boundless, untouched. Modern life trains us to fill every gap with noise, with plans, with endless thinking. We scroll, speak, worry, repeat. But the heart longs for space, for that simple breath between moments. Silence is not the absence of life. It is life returning to itself. In Zen practice, this is called mushin, no mind. It doesn't mean ignorance or blankness. It means clarity so pure that even thought becomes transparent. When you rest there, a strange and beautiful thing happens. The world continues exactly as before, yet you feel completely new. The birds still sing, the traffic still hums, the mind still produces thoughts, but none of it disturbs you, because you are no longer caught in the current. You are the riverbed itself. Try this throughout your day. Between words, notice the silence. Between breaths, feel the stillness. Between thoughts, rest in awareness. Even for 1 second. That 1 second is eternity touching time. The Buddha called this nibbana in this very life, the cooling of the fire while still alive. Not a distant heaven, but the simple pause where nothing is missing. You don't have to hold it. Just notice it again and again. Each noticing polishes the mirror of your mind until it reflects the world exactly as it is, without distortion, without resistance. Stay here for a breath longer. Let the quiet deepen until it shines like still water under moonlight. And when you look into that reflection, you may see something unexpected. The mind looking back at itself, clear and full of light. Out of the quiet, something shines. A mirror so gentle it reflects everything, even the space between thoughts. Let us rest our eyes there, where the world simply is. The mirror and the moon. As the silence clears, a reflection begins to form, soft, luminous, and perfectly still. Let us turn gently toward that mirror now, where things appear exactly as they are, untouched by our ideas of them. Zen teachers often say, the mind is like a clear mirror. When it's calm, it reflects everything truly. When it's disturbed, it reflects nothing at all. Imagine a lake at night. When the surface is still, the moon appears whole, serene, radiant. But when the wind stirs, the moon breaks into 1,000 trembling pieces. The moon hasn't changed, only the water has. So it is with the mind. When we are restless, the world seems fragmented, full of noise and confusion. When we are still, everything becomes simple again. Not because the world changed, but because the mirror of awareness was polished clean. The Buddha once said, "In all the world, nothing is as precious as a clear mind." he didn't mean a mind without thought, but a mind without distortion, a mind that sees things as they truly are. To see clearly, we must first stop trying to add clarity. Just as scrubbing the surface of a lake only stirs up mud, striving to purify the mind creates more turbulence. Clarity comes not from effort, but from stillness. When you stop polishing, the mirror polishes itself. There's an old Zen story of a monk who told his teacher, "My mind is like a dusty mirror. I must polish it constantly to keep it clear." The teacher replied, "There is no mirror and no dust, so what will you polish?" In that moment, the monk awakened. The story isn't saying we should neglect our minds. It reminds us that the mirror was never truly dirty, only covered by clouds of thought, judgment, and fear. The moment you stop identifying with those clouds, the light shines through on its own. Look at the moon again. Even when clouds drift across it, its light never fades. The moon doesn't fight the clouds. It simply waits, knowing that the sky will clear in time. That is the patience of wisdom. Your awareness is that same moonlight, always present, even when hidden by passing storms of emotion. Anger, sorrow, pride, they come and go. But awareness, like the moon, remains untouched. You don't have to chase the light. You only need to remember it's still shining. Try feeling this now. Close your eyes for a breath. Imagine your mind as a vast mirror, reflecting sound, sensation, thought. Notice how each image arises and passes, like ripples fading on the surface of a pond. The mirror does not cling to what it reflects. It simply allows everything to appear and everything to vanish. This is not detachment. It is intimacy without possession, seeing the world fully, yet free from the urge to own or control it. When awareness becomes this clear, love arises naturally, because love is simply seeing without distortion, seeing another being as part of yourself. The moonlight doesn't choose where to shine. It falls equally on temples and gutters, on rivers and stones. That is the compassion born of clarity. The mirror and the moon are not two. The mirror is your mind. The moon is your true nature reflected within it. When both are still, the reflection disappears, and only light remains. In that light, the world no longer divides into good and bad, success and failure, gain and loss. Everything becomes one continuous glow, different shades of the same truth. Stay in that glow for a moment. Let the light fill the edges of your being until even shadow feels gentle again. For within that light, the next truth begins to emerge. That shadow itself is only another form of the same illumination. Let us step softly into that understanding, into the quiet meeting between the shadow and the light within. The shadow and the light. Within, the moonlight fades for a moment, and what remains is shadow. But look closely. The shadow is not the enemy of light. It is where light learns how to deepen. The Buddha once said, "Just as a lotus grows in muddy water, so too the heart awakens in the middle of suffering." He didn't mean that pain is good. He meant that pain is honest. A teacher we often try to silence, but one that always speaks the truth. When we look at our inner world, we find both radiance and darkness, both kindness and fear. To pretend one doesn't exist is to live only half a life. True awakening means turning toward the shadow with the same openness we give the light. There is a Zen story of a monk who feared his anger so much that he spent years trying to suppress it. One day his master said, "Invite your anger to tea." So the monk did. He sat in silence, imagining his anger as a guest sitting across from him. At first, the guest looked fierce and wild, but as they sat together in quiet, the anger began to soften, and beneath its heat, the monk saw something tender. the fear of not being understood. The master smiled when he heard this. When you stop fighting the shadow, he said, you begin to see what it was trying to protect. Anger often hides grief. Jealousy hides longing. Fear hides the wish to be safe. The shadow is not darkness for its own sake. It is light turned inward, waiting for acceptance. We live in a world that tells us to stay positive, to erase sadness, to wear happiness like armor. But the Buddha taught that wholeness does not come from avoiding suffering. It comes from understanding it. When you breathe gently into pain, it transforms. What was once heavy becomes compassionate, like ice melting into clear water. Try it now. Bring to mind something that has hurt you recently, a memory, a word, a disappointment. Notice where it lives in your body, maybe in the chest, the stomach, the throat. Don't push it away. Just breathe with it. Let it know you see it. You don't have to fix it. Just allow it to exist within your awareness. This is what compassion truly means. Not to save or solve, but to stay, to remain soft even in the presence of pain. When you stop dividing yourself into good and bad, you begin to see that both sides belong to the same sky. The light needs the shadow to reveal its warmth. The shadow needs the light to find its shape. Together they form the complete picture of being human. In the same way, your flaws, your fears, your regrets, they are not mistakes in the design. They are the texture of your soul, the soil where wisdom grows. The Buddha called this karuna, compassion born from understanding. It is not pity. It is love that sees suffering and chooses to stay close to it until it softens. When you practice seeing this way, you stop asking, how do I get rid of my pain? And begin to ask, what is my pain trying to show me? And suddenly the shadow is no longer a threat. It becomes your guide. There's a saying in Zen, the obstacle is the path. It doesn't mean we seek pain, but that everything, once met with awareness, becomes a doorway back to truth. Take a breath now. As you inhale, imagine light entering your body. As you exhale, imagine it spreading gently into the places that have been hiding in darkness. No force, no fixing, just presence. Notice how even the shadow feels softer when seen through love. The moon shines again, this time brighter for having passed through cloud. The night is still whole, because it holds both light and dark in the same sky. And from that wholeness, another force quietly begins to rise, a compassion not learned or given, but one that heals by its very nature. In understanding our pain, the heart begins to soften, and in that softness, compassion quietly returns, the kind that heals without trying, the compassion that heals itself. From this meeting of shadow and light, something tender begins to rise, not forced, not learned, but born from the heart's quiet understanding. Let us rest there, in the warmth of compassion that heals by simply being. The Buddha once said, if you truly love yourself, you never harm another. For when understanding awakens, it dissolves the boundaries that divide you and me. Compassion then flows naturally, like fragrance from a flower, effortless, unseen, but unmistakable. We often think of compassion as something we must do, to fix, to comfort, to rescue. But true compassion does not begin with doing. It begins with seeing the pain behind anger, the fear behind cruelty, the longing behind indifference. When you truly see, love appears by itself, without being summoned. There's a story of a woman who came to the Buddha in deep grief after losing her only child. She begged him for medicine that could bring the boy back to life. The Buddha told her, "Bring me a mustard seed from a house untouched by death." She searched every home in the village, but each family had its own story of loss. By the time she returned, her tears had turned into understanding. The Buddha didn't give her a cure. He gave her the compassion that heals itself. That is how compassion works. It arises not from perfection, but from shared humanity. It doesn't erase sorrow. It embraces it so fully that sorrow loses its sting. When you see suffering clearly, without turning away or clinging to it, a soft warmth begins to glow within. It is not pity, not sadness. It is love recognizing itself in another form. That warmth is the essence of healing. Try to feel this now. Think of someone, perhaps yourself, who is struggling. Notice the instinct to fix or to judge. Then pause. Instead of rushing to help, just breathe and say silently, "May this being be free from suffering. May they find peace." Say it without expectation, like placing a candle in the dark. The flame may be small, but its light travels far. You may notice that this compassion not only touches others, it softens you, because compassion is never one way. The hand that offers it is warmed by the same flame. In Zen, compassion and wisdom are seen as two wings of the same bird. Wisdom sees the truth of things, that all beings are interdependent, that pain and joy move through us all. Compassion feels that truth and responds not from obligation, but from belonging. When these two wings move together, healing happens without effort, not as a miracle, but as the natural rhythm of life remembering itself. Even science now echoes this. Studies show that compassion calms the nervous system, slows the heart, and strengthens the immune response. But long before research confirmed it, the Buddha already knew the heart that understands heals itself. You don't need to chase compassion. You only need to stop blocking it. It's already there, beneath fear, beneath judgment, waiting for your permission to flow. Like water held back by a dam, the moment you let go of should and must, it rushes forward, pure, unstoppable, kind. The world needs this kind of compassion now, not the noisy kind that argues, but the quiet one that listens. Not the compassion that burns out, but the one that breathes. Sit quietly for a moment. Place a hand over your heart. Feel it beating, steady, patient, forgiving. It has carried you through every sorrow and every joy. It knows how to heal. You only need to let it. In this stillness, you may sense something loosening. The gentle release of all the effort to be good, to be enough. And from that release, gratitude begins to bloom. The kind that expects nothing, but gives everything. That gratitude is the next step on the path. The gift that comes when letting go becomes love. The river keeps flowing, carrying away what no longer needs to stay. There is no struggle, only movement. The quiet wisdom of release. Come, let us follow that current of letting go. The gift of letting go. Nothing is truly lost when we let it go. It simply finds its way back to wholeness. Let us step into that truth now, as softly as a leaf falling in autumn air. In the forest, every leaf knows when to fall. No one teaches it, no wind commands it. When the time is right, it releases, and the tree does not mourn. Because in letting go, the leaf returns to the soil, and the soil becomes nourishment for the tree once more. This is the wisdom of nature. Nothing truly ends, it only changes form. The Buddha called this impermanence, and within it lies the secret of peace. To resist change is to suffer. To flow with it is to be free. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It means remembering without pain. It means releasing the weight of how it should have been and opening your hands to what is. When we cling, we fight the current. When we release, we float with life itself. There's a story of a monk who came to his teacher, trembling with grief. "I've lost everything," he said. The teacher pointed to a nearby stream and replied, "Look at the water. It never holds what passes through, yet it is never empty. The monk bowed deeply. He understood. The heart that can let go never truly loses anything. In our lives, letting go takes many shapes. Sometimes it's a person we once loved, sometimes a dream we've outgrown, sometimes it's the image of who we thought we should be. Each release feels like a small death, because a part of us believes that holding on is the only way to stay alive. But the truth is the opposite. Holding tight keeps us stuck in what no longer breathes. Letting go allows life to move through us again. Think of all the things you've already released without noticing. The skin cells that fell away, the breaths you've exhaled, the years that passed quietly while you became someone new. Letting go is not something we learn. It is something we've been doing all along. Try this now. Take a slow breath in and hold it gently for a moment. Then exhale fully, without hesitation. Notice that you didn't lose the air. You made space for the next breath to come. Life moves the same way. Every ending is just a space for something new to begin. Letting go of others doesn't mean you stop loving them. It means you stop trying to control the shape that love must take. It might turn into silence or distance or a quiet blessing whispered from afar. But the essence of love remains. It just breathes in a wider sky. Letting go of pain doesn't mean denying it happened. It means you stop letting it define who you are. Pain is a teacher, but it was never meant to be your home. Once its lesson is understood, it bows and leaves. And letting go of yourself, your roles, your expectations, your need to always know, is the greatest release of all. Because when you stop gripping the idea of me, life can finally hold you instead. In Zen, they say, the tighter you hold, the less you have. But the moment you open your hand, the world returns to it. Letting go is not weakness. It is the courage to trust that what is meant to stay will stay, and what is ready to go was never yours to keep. As you sit quietly now, imagine leaves drifting down from a great tree above you. Each one a thought, a memory, a fear. Watch them fall without regret. The tree does not chase them. It simply stands, open to the sky. That stillness is the gift of letting go. And beneath that stillness, you may hear the faintest sound, the murmur of a river, carrying all things toward their next form. The leaves have fallen, yet something beneath them keeps moving, a rhythm older than sorrow, a river remembering its way to the sea. Let us go there, where change becomes music. The river beneath change, listen. Do you hear it? Beneath every ending, something still moves, gentle, steady, unbroken. Let us drift with that quiet current now, into the river that flows beneath all change. The Buddha once said, everything changes, and that is why everything is possible. Change is not the enemy of peace. It is the rhythm that makes peace alive. Imagine standing beside a river at dawn. Mist rises, sunlight shimmers on the surface, and the water moves on. Never the same, never lost. The waves you touched a moment ago are already gone, but new ones keep arriving, each carrying the reflection of the same sky. Life is that river. Every moment, every breath, every heartbeat is a new current passing through the endless stream of now. And yet, we suffer because we try to hold the water still. We cling to what is already leaving, a memory, a plan, a person, a version of ourselves. We call it love or responsibility, but often it is simply fear. Fear of not knowing who we are without what we hold. But the river does not ask the stone for permission to flow. It moves because movement is its nature. There's a story from the Buddha's time. A monk came to him in despair saying, "My life keeps changing. Nothing stays the same. How can I find peace?" The Buddha asked, "Do you hear the sound of that stream nearby?" The monk nodded. "Then follow it," said the Buddha. "Follow it until you see that it never stops." and neither do you. Change does not destroy you, it carries you. Every transformation, however painful, is simply the current finding a new direction. And deep beneath all that motion flows something constant, the still riverbed of awareness. You can sense it in moments of quiet truth. When a loved one leaves but your heart still feels full, when grief softens into gratitude, when loss reveals what truly matters. Those are glimpses of the river beneath change, the part of you that remains even as everything else shifts. Modern life moves faster than ever. We live in a world that worships control, where stillness feels like falling behind. But the more we fight the current, the more exhausted we become. Peace isn't found by building dams. It's found by learning how to float. Try this now. Close your eyes. Imagine yourself in a river, the water cool and gentle around you. You're not swimming. You're allowing. The current supports you completely. Feel it moving. Not against you, but with you. You are not separate from the flow. You are the flow. Change has always been your companion. It carried you from childhood to this very breath, from every heartbreak to every healing. Without it, there would be no sunrise, no laughter, no rebirth. Impermanence isn't loss. It's the engine of creation. In Zen, they say, water never resists its path, and that is why it wears down stone. Let life move through you that way, softly, patiently, persistently. What feels like an ending today is often just a turn in the river you cannot yet see. Every season teaches this truth. Spring doesn't mourn winter's passing. It uses the melting snow to bloom. Autumn doesn't cling to its colors. It releases them gracefully to feed the earth. The same wisdom lives in you. Take a deep breath. As you exhale, imagine the river carrying away everything that no longer needs to stay. Old worries, old stories, old identities. Not erasing them, but returning them to the great cycle of renewal. The water keeps flowing. You keep changing. And yet, somewhere beneath it all, there is a still point that never moves. The silent witness to every ripple and every wave. Let us turn toward that stillness next. The quiet heart of the river, where motion and rest become one. The still point. Within the flow, the river keeps flowing, but somewhere within its movement there is a stillness, a quiet point that never drifts. Even as the water rushes on, let us turn toward that still point now, where motion and rest begin to speak the same language. The Buddha once said, "Within the moving, find the unmoving. Within the unmoving, find the moving." To understand this is to see the heart of Zen. We often imagine peace as the absence of activity, a silent retreat, a closed door, a life untouched by noise. But peace is not found by escaping the world. It is found by discovering the still place that exists even in the middle of it. Think of a spinning wheel. The rim moves fast, but at the very center, the hub, there is no motion at all. Without that still center, the wheel cannot turn. So too with us. Our days whirl with movement, work, messages, responsibilities, desires. Yet within it all there is a space that does not move. The awareness watching everything unfold. That is the still point within the flow. You can feel it even now. Close your eyes for a moment. Notice the breath entering and leaving your body. Each inhale moves. Each exhale moves, but the awareness of breathing, the space in which it happens, does not move. That awareness is the hub of your wheel, the riverbed beneath your current. Zen calls this state Fudoshin, the immovable heart, not cold, not detached, but deeply calm in the midst of movement. Like a mountain reflecting the sky, it changes with the seasons, but is never shaken by the wind. The modern world confuses stillness with inaction. We're taught that slowing down is wasting time, that silence is emptiness, that calm is weakness. But the truth is the opposite. Stillness is not the absence of power, it's the source of it. A river doesn't move because it struggles. It moves because gravity itself is guiding it. Likewise, when we act from inner stillness, our choices flow naturally, without resistance, without chaos. That's why the Buddha's calm presence was never passive. It was pure responsiveness, the kind that arises from clarity. There's a story of a Zen archer who could hit the center of a target even with his eyes closed. When asked his secret, he said, "I don't aim with the arrow, I aim with stillness." The arrow, like life, finds its mark when the archer's mind is unmoved. Stillness doesn't mean nothing happens. It means everything happens through you, not to you. You become the open space through which life flows. Try this when the world feels overwhelming. Pause for a single breath. Let sound and motion continue around you, but stay in the quiet behind it. That quiet isn't elsewhere. It's within you, beneath every thought, beneath every rush of emotion. If you rest there, even for a few seconds, you'll notice something miraculous. The noise doesn't stop, but your relationship with it changes. The noise becomes music, the chaos becomes rhythm, the day becomes meditation. This is why the Buddha could walk through crowded markets with the same serenity he had under the Bodhi tree. His peace wasn't fragile. It didn't depend on silence. It came from knowing that stillness was always available, right where he stood. Take a breath now. Feel life moving through you and awareness holding it all. The movement is the melody, the stillness is the listener. Together, they make the song complete. The still point is not a destination. It is the home that never leaves you, no matter how far you travel. And when you begin to live from that home, you start to see others differently, not as separate rivers, but as ripples within the same great flow. Let us turn toward that realization, the quiet space between you and me, where separateness dissolves into belonging. The space between you and me. The river widens now, and somewhere within its gentle current, the water that was once mine meets the water that was once yours. They merge without resistance, and in that merging, the idea of separation quietly dissolves. This is the space between you and me, the meeting place where all things touch. Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "To be is to interbe. Nothing exists by itself. A flower contains the rain, the soil, the sun, the cloud, and even the gardener's breath. Without them, there is no flower. And without the flower, how would we ever see the rain?" We often imagine ourselves as isolated beings, individual rivers, each carving our own way. But look closely, and you'll see that every current is fed by countless others. Every smile is born from 1,000 unseen kindnesses. Every word from generations of thought and care. Even the air you breathe was once exhaled by trees, by oceans, by someone you'll never meet. To live in awareness of this is to live in gratitude, because nothing we are was made by us alone. In today's world, it's easy to forget this truth. We build walls, draw lines, and say, "This is mine, that is yours." But beneath those lines, the same earth continues uninterrupted. The same heartbeat hums in every chest. The same longing for peace moves through every soul. We are not drops separate from the ocean. We are the ocean, momentarily taking the shape of drops. There's a story told in the Zen tradition. A student asked his master, "What happens when I die?" The master said, "You will return to where you never left." The student frowned. "I don't understand." The master smiled. "When you drink tea, does the cup become the tea? When you pour it back, where does it go? The space between you and me is not empty. It is full of everything we share. Love travels through it. Words travel through it. Even silence, when offered with care, becomes a bridge instead of a distance. You can feel this right now. Think of someone far away, a friend, a loved one, even someone you've lost. Bring their image gently into your heart. Notice how, without a word spoken, they are here. The connection doesn't depend on touch or time. It moves through a subtler air, the field of awareness that holds us all. When you understand this, loneliness begins to lose its edge, because you realize that nothing truly leaves. Everything and everyone you've ever loved lives on as part of what you are. The laughter of a child, the wisdom of an elder, the kindness of a stranger, all of it flows through you, shaping your heart's riverbed. In this seeing, compassion grows effortlessly, because when I understand that your suffering is also mine, how can I turn away? When I realize that your joy nourishes me, how can I not celebrate with you? To harm another is to wound myself. To forgive another is to free myself. The Buddha called this metta, loving kindness. It is not a feeling we force, but a truth we remember. It whispers, there is no separate you, no isolated me, only this shared moment of being alive. Try to feel this now. Take a breath in. Let it remind you that what fills your lungs was part of the world just a heartbeat ago. Exhale and give it back freely. That exchange, giving and receiving, is the rhythm of interbeing itself. When you live from this space, relationships become less about needing and more about seeing. You stop asking, what can I get? And begin asking, what can I understand? Because true connection is not built by holding tighter, but by listening deeper. Listening beyond words, beyond stories, into the silence where two hearts meet. Stay with this quiet a little longer, for in the hush between us, something sacred begins to awaken, the kind of silence that listens for us both. The art of listening deeply. Stay with this quiet a little longer, for in the hush between us, something sacred begins to awaken, the kind of silence that listens for us both. Listening is one of the purest forms of love. It asks for nothing, promises nothing, but gives everything: attention, space, presence. The Buddha called it deep listening, the practice of hearing not just words, but the heart beneath them. When we truly listen, we become mirrors, reflecting the other without distortion. We don't rush to fix, to correct, or to reply. We simply hold space, and in that space, healing begins. There's a story about the Buddha and a grieving man. The man came to him, overwhelmed with loss, and began to pour out his sorrow. The Buddha sat silently, not interrupting, not explaining impermanence, not offering philosophy. He just listened, completely, with his whole being. After a long time, the man's tears began to soften. When he finally looked up, he said, "Your silence has comforted me more than 1,000 words could." That is the power of listening deeply. To offer presence so full that another person begins to hear themselves. But this kind of listening is rare in our world today. We listen to answer. We listen to argue. We listen while waiting for our turn to speak. Even when we seem silent, our minds are often loud, judging, comparing, preparing. To listen deeply, we must first quiet the noise within, because only a still heart can hear clearly. Try this now. Close your eyes for a moment and listen, not to my voice, but to the sounds around you. Notice the hum of life, a distant car, a breeze, your own breath moving in and out. Now listen even deeper, to the silence underneath it all. That silence is not empty, it's alive. It's the space where understanding grows. When you listen this way to another person, you give them a rare gift, the feeling of being truly seen. You stop being you and them. For a moment, there is only awareness listening to itself. Thich Nhat Hanh taught that deep listening requires compassion. Without compassion, you may hear the words but miss the pain behind them. With compassion, even silence becomes an embrace. You don't have to solve someone's suffering. You only have to understand it, and that understanding itself becomes medicine. Sometimes, the one we need to listen to most is ourselves. There are parts of us that have been whispering for years. The tired parts, the wounded parts, the patient parts waiting to be heard. When you listen to them without judgment, they begin to settle, and in their settling, you find peace. Deep listening isn't limited to people. You can listen to the rain, to the earth beneath your feet, to the quiet voice of intuition that speaks without words. Every sound is an invitation to return to this breath, this heartbeat, this now. Try practicing this in small ways. When someone speaks, pause before responding. Let their words echo in your chest for a moment. Notice what arises in you, not to judge it, but to understand it. That is mindfulness in conversation. When you listen deeply, walls begin to crumble. Fear turns into empathy. Distance turns into understanding. And the world, which once seemed divided, feels whole again. The Buddha said, "When you understand, you cannot help but love." Because understanding and love are not two different things. They are two notes of the same song. Listening is how we remember the melody. Take one more breath here. Let your awareness open like a vast ear, hearing the world exactly as it is, without needing to change it. Every sound, every silence, every story you meet is part of the same great conversation of life. And when that conversation deepens, something begins to shift. A freedom not born of forgetting, but of forgiving. When the heart truly listens, it no longer needs to forgive. It simply lets go. And in that letting go finds its own release, the freedom beyond forgiveness. In this listening, the heart begins to soften, not to forget, but to finally understand. And in that understanding, a quiet freedom starts to bloom. The gentle release of a heart that forgives itself. Forgiveness is often misunderstood. We think it means saying, "It's okay," when it wasn't, or pretending the pain didn't matter. But true forgiveness is not about denial. It is about release. The freedom that comes when the burden of resentment finally drops away. The Buddha taught that holding on to anger is like grasping a burning coal with the intent to throw it at another. You are the one who burns. So forgiveness is not something you give to others first. It's the mercy you offer yourself. It's the moment you stop carrying what was never yours to keep. There's a story of two monks traveling together. They came to a river where a woman waited, unable to cross. One monk hesitated, for their vows forbade contact with women. But the older monk lifted her gently, carried her across, and continued walking. Hours later, the younger monk burst out. "How could you do that?" The elder smiled. "I put her down at the riverbank hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" Forgiveness is setting down what has already passed. It doesn't excuse, it frees. It doesn't erase memory, it transforms it. When you hold on to anger, the past continues to live inside you, shaping every thought, coloring every moment. But when you let it go, you return that space to peace. You give yourself back to yourself. Try this now. Bring to mind someone or something that still feels heavy in your heart. Notice the tightness in your body as you remember. Then take a slow breath in, as if breathing light into that tension. And as you exhale, imagine saying softly, "I release you. You no longer have to live inside me." Repeat it as many times as you need, not to erase them, but to remind yourself that you deserve peace. Forgiveness does not happen all at once. It unfolds like dawn, slowly, gently, naturally. Sometimes it takes years, sometimes lifetimes, But every moment you choose not to feed resentment, the light grows stronger. And remember, forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. You can forgive someone and still walk your own path. Forgiveness doesn't mean letting someone hurt you again. It means they no longer control your inner weather. In the end, forgiveness is not a decision. It's a realization. You realize that the person who caused you pain was also suffering. You see their actions not as justification, but as confusion. And in that seeing, the knot inside you loosens. Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "When you understand, you cannot help but forgive." Understanding doesn't make wrong right, but it allows love to flow again through the places where pain once lived. This is the true freedom of forgiveness. It doesn't change the past. It changes your relationship to it. It lets you look back and see not wounds, but lessons, not enemies, but teachers. Forgiveness is the natural outcome of a heart that has learned to see clearly. When you stop dividing life into victims and villains, you realize there was only ever confusion turning in search of light. And when that realization dawns, you stop asking, "Who was right?" and start asking, "What can I love now?" Take a slow breath. Feel how the air enters freely, without asking for permission. That's what forgiveness feels like. Life returning to its natural flow. Forgiveness is not the end of the journey. It is the bridge back to peace, the peace that is not earned, not granted, but already waiting, quietly, beneath all we have carried. And when we reach that peace, there is nothing left to seek, only to rest. Let us rest there now, in that final stillness, the peace beyond belief. The night has grown quiet now. Even the river seems to whisper more softly, as if it too has found a place to rest. And within that quiet, something familiar returns. The peace that has been waiting all along. We've traveled far together, through shadow and light, through holding on and letting go. We've seen how pain gives birth to compassion, how silence holds the wisdom that words cannot, and how love, once freed from fear, becomes vast enough to include everything. Now, as we arrive here, in this moment between breaths, there is nowhere left to go, because what we sought was never somewhere else. This is the peace beyond belief, the peace that needs no proof, no promise, no perfection. It does not depend on faith or understanding. It simply is. The Buddha once held up a flower to his disciples. Most stayed silent, puzzled. But one, Mahakashyapa, smiled. In that moment, without a single word, he understood. Peace is not found through explanation, but through presence. This presence lives in you now. The awareness that sees, that listens, that breathes. It is older than thought, younger than this moment, and it cannot be lost. If you look back on the path we've walked, you may notice something gentle has shifted. The heart feels lighter, not because it gained something, but because it stopped resisting what already is. Every leaf that fell was never gone. It simply changed its form. Every river that flowed never ended. It only found new banks to touch. Every loss, every joy, every moment of confusion was just life unfolding, learning how to know itself. Peace was never waiting at the end. It was quietly walking beside you all along. In every inhale, every act of kindness, every tear that softened into understanding. Now, in this stillness, the boundaries begin to blur. The you listening and the world being heard are no longer two. They are the same silence, meeting itself in awareness. This is the secret the masters called no self. Not a void, but a vastness, an openness where everything belongs. Here, forgiveness and gratitude become one breath. Here, the heart no longer tries to fix the world. It simply loves it. Take a slow breath in. Feel how it enters without effort. Exhale and feel the space that remains. Wide, weightless, complete. This is home. You don't need to hold it. You don't need to name it. Like moonlight on still water, it will reflect itself through you. The world may continue to move. Storms will come. Seasons will change. The river will rise and fall. But beneath it all, this peace remains. Unbroken, untouchable, infinite. And when you forget, just pause. Listen for the sound between thoughts, for the silence beneath the noise. It's there you'll find it again. The still heart of the river, the gentle mirror of the moon, the breath that never leaves. You have not reached an ending. You have returned to what you've always been. Awareness itself, soft, luminous, free. So rest here, in the peace that asks for nothing. Let it cradle you like night cradles the earth. Let it breathe for you, dream for you, and move through you as light moves through clear water. And when you wake, carry this stillness gently into the noise of the day. Speak with its calm, walk with its kindness, see with its quiet understanding. For the true practice is not found in silence alone, but in how we bring that silence into the world. Now, the night deepens. The moon rests high above, and its reflection shimmers on the surface of the river. Look closely. There is no divide between them, only one light appearing twice. May you remember that light each time the world feels dark. May you trust the river each time life begins to move again. And may you rest forever and always in this peace beyond belief. May the calm you found tonight stay gently with you tomorrow. If these stories bring you rest, you can always return here when your heart needs quiet. Subscribe to walk this peaceful path with us.